you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Priyadarshi, the founder of MyStartupYatra. Welcome you all to our Coffee Break online session. Today, our guest is Mr. Om Malviya, the founder of Tezos and one of the directors of Tezos Foundation of blockchain. Hi, Om,
Hi, Priyadarshi. How are
and our own regular Subbu, the advisor of MyStartupYatra, and yes, he is one of the well-known face in MyStartupYatra, who will be taking the interview or he will be grilling Om, right? Okay, over to Subbu.
you? Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Priyadarshi. Thanks, everyone, for
Thank
joining us. So, I won't be grilling you, but over the next half an hour or so, we'd like to understand more about what blockchain is, what cryptos are, where Bitcoin is, and various other topics relating to that. One thing which I found very interesting about Om is that Om regularly talks about Bitcoin, whereas most people are like, I don't want to talk about crypto, I don't want to talk about Bitcoin, but Om is very open about that. And for regular people like me who aren't crypto investors as such, it's more important for us to understand what it is and how to get in. So thanks, Om, for joining us. Everybody in the audience, you can just a quick note. You can introduce yourself in the comments. We'll try to see how networking can happen. If you have any questions for Om, raise your hand. We'll bring you on. You can also put the questions down if they're small in the chat window over there. So Om is the co-founder of Tezos. Tezos is a blockchain-based company in the insurance space, and he's here with us to tell us more about his exciting journey in the space. So Om, before we get into what Tezos is, Tezos Foundation, and all the things that are happening on your side of the world, tell us who you are and what's the history of Om.
Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm Om Malviya. So, basically, I've been very interested in the startup space since, I guess, since when the Flipkart was launched, and since it goes very back. So, I got into the blockchain journey is a different thing, and before the blockchain journey, I was already trying to explore a lot of different segments. Basically what I have been trying to do before blockchain was to search more into the Indian market, how it is evolving, how digitalization is happening, and how the technology is enabling all the people to get more connected and bring value to your mobile basically. So, and I was also very interested in the value, like how do you derive value, what value some certain aspects bring. Let's say data has some value, then your money has some value, and then services have some value. So I was very interested in what derives value, and then after that I got interested into the current monetary and financial ecosystem, and that was the time around, I guess, 4 years back, when I got introduced to Bitcoin, because I was exploring this entire financial just out of interest, out of curiosity. So I wanted to dive deep and I wanted to know more. And yeah, like most people in the last 2 years, I wasn't attracted towards Bitcoin just for investment, or just because definitely in last 2 years it has been more about investment and the hype and the markets. But when I got introduced to Bitcoin, I was more into understanding how does it derive value, and what the economics behind it, and why the need of Bitcoin was there. So I got into Bitcoin, I researched about it, and that time I found out, I eventually it was inevitable that from Bitcoin I had to move to blockchain, because that's how I got into blockchain. And then I tried to research what's happening in India regarding Bitcoin and blockchain. So that time there was a couple of exchanges that came, some people were interested, but there were not a lot of information. At least some Indian knowledge portal, like now there are a lot of, but there was no portal where people like me who just were interested in knowing the blockchain and Bitcoin more, they could get information. So that time I co-founded a blog with one of my partners. It's itsblockchain.com. It's blockchain.com. It was one of India's first cryptocurrency and blockchain media. Just I used to write blogs about what is blockchain, what is Bitcoin, how does it work, why the need of Bitcoin is there. Because the thing is that for any new asset class that get introduced, there are usually a lot of scams, and people don't understand, and they invest money blindly, and so many of the things. So we also used to sometimes write some couple of Ponzi schemes like Bitcoin, Bitcoin or Stcoin, and also at the same time aware our readers about to help them making a decision if they should invest in Bitcoin. And that is still my stance that you never just just invest because others are doing or the value is going up. Just try to first get yourself educated about Bitcoin and the blockchain, and try to learn a little bit more about the kind of financial kind of value and kind of economical value it provides, the value proposition Bitcoin gives, and then make your decision according to that. That was
Sure.
that was the blockchain journey. After that, I went to Draper University because I found out Tim Draper, he was heavily invested in Bitcoin. This was just like couple of steps. I just kept taking all these steps. Then I went to Draper University. They selected me because I was already involved in the blockchain, which is blockchain.com, and that's where I met one of my co-founder, Bert Ostrom, who is a Dutch guy from Netherlands.
Mhm.
And till that time, there were a lot of blockchain projects out there. Ethereum became popular, and Tezos, one of the blockchain I'm really associated with right now, did a very big ICO, which is like IPO in blockchain ecosystem. They raised $232 million, and I got very interested into their technology, the technology that they provide. And that was also the same time I was looking to venture to my some other idea. I will move more from that is still running by the way, blockchain. And that's where me and my co-founder, we co-founded this year. Basically, we wanted to tap into the peer-to-peer insurance market, which can be enabled using blockchain. It's a very niche market, but in a couple of years, we see that it's going to grow a lot more. And that's we founded Tezos, and we decided to build Tezos on Tezos blockchain. Tezos blockchain is just like like for building an app, you have Android, you have React, other platform, other
Mhm.
frameworks. So the same way, blockchain has different frameworks like Ethereum, like Tezos, EOS, and we thought that we had seen earlier that day that Theos is going to be a really advanced and amazing framework to build your application on, a decentralized application. So we chose Tezos, and that's how we got connected into Tezos ecosystem, and we started Tezos. And then we started with basically insurance, but then we have opened up the areas that we work on. We have developed a bunch of developer tools which help developers to build their applications easily on Theos blockchain. We have uh, we have built Oracle network. So Oracle is kind of API service, a decentralized API service in the blockchain ecosystem. And obviously, we are also working on a peer-to-peer insurance platform, the mobile app, and also a bunch of other projects that we are trying to create an entire layer of infrastructure where people developers can come and they can build their apps, users can come and they can spend their cryptocurrency, which is Tezos, and they can they can interact with it, they can buy insurance, and they can do activities on top of it. So this is, I guess, and yeah, one other thing is Tezos India Foundation. I'm not director of Tezos Foundation. Tezos
Mhm.
is the foundation, the Switzerland-based foundation who holds $232 million, which was raised in the ICO.
Uh-huh.
The Tezos India Foundation is, you could say, a sub part of Tezos Foundation, which is basically mainly created for supporting and promoting Tezos blockchain growth in India. So it is only for India. Tezos Foundation has, provided support to all these different non-profit, or we are not Tezos India is non-profit,
Mhm.
and where we do education, where we do meetups, where we train developers how to develop on Tezos blockchain, and also we provide them support and network in the blockchain ecosystem. So it's a bunch of different areas that we work on in the foundation. So I think that was a lot, but yeah, maybe I took a little bit
No,
more.
I mean, no, the thing is, so when I was reading up a bit about Teshar, one thing that stood out for me with you and with a bunch of other blockchain founders, right, is that all of you have a very strong technical background. And it's so you've also written research papers on the scalability of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
That's another thing that you've done. And so you started off. So just to recap, you started off. You when you realized you had a strong interest in blockchain, you realized not many people were on that side of the
Mm.
technology market, and you started blockchain.com, started writing, started publishing, started getting the people together, and then one thing led to another. You went to so your friend, your co-founder Bernd, you met him at Draper University, basically.
Yes, exactly.
So awesome. So no, thanks for giving us that context, because that'll. Oh, so Vikas is here. Hey Vikas. So Vikas
Hey,
did
hi,
join.
Vikas. I met him a couple of times.
Vikas was here a couple of days back. We were talking about blockchain from various angles as well with him. So awesome. So over the next 30 minutes or so, main points that we wanted to cover are: what is Tezos? Then how does blockchain work out in terms of in India? What are the use cases? What is it that you're going after? How is the customer sentiment? And also, because you're an international company, so what is some of the ecosystem versus India versus abroad are probably these are three main buckets that we wanted to go into. So
Definitely.
in let's say in one line, what is Tezos? How could you tell us that?
So Thisher is a platform which enables users to create their own insurance pools. So basically, let's say if you want to create a insurance pool, you can create your own insurance pool for some kind of insurance that you want to have, and then you can invite all of your friends and other people to pool in some money. And in case of any event, claim or damage happens, the money is paid out of that pool. It was the Tissue insurance platform one-liner.
Okay. And I mean, so just let's delve into that. Like, why would I, as me, as a again, as a lay customer who's not used to blockchain, and again, that's a means to an end for me. What would you say is the main value for me?
So the value that we are trying to create is usually in the insurance industry. Thing is that most of the users don't trust their companies, right? Because
Mhm.
first is that there is a conflict of interest. As a user, you want the maximum payout, and as an insurance company, they want to pay minimum. I mean, they don't even want to pay, right? So there is not a so there is a conflict of interest, and there is not a certain agreement. So that agreement, and we can make that agreement digitally using smart contracts, where both of the actors agreed upon some certain set of rules, not insurance that insurance company. I mean, it's more of a peer-to-peer insurance where everybody agrees upon basically a certain set of rules that in certain events, if this happens, this is how much amount I'll be paid out, and that's the basically idea of it. I mean, there's still many hurdles. Like obviously, you will have to pay cryptocurrency, and there are still, but as we are seeing this ecosystem evolving really rapidly, because now it is not only limited to the insurance. There is a entire new decentralized financing system that is being building, and the users are still building. So we are kind of bullish about it, that in the coming future, and we are also enabling a lot of people to uh, educate about the blockchain, mainly also enabling them to how to use blockchain, how to let's say pay or make transactions, and also on the development side, we are making it like, even as a company, we are also making it easier to interact with all this blockchain instead of going into too much technical. The end goal is it should be as easy as using any normal app.
Okay, okay. And so if I get it right, what you're doing is that I log into Teshar, assuming that I'm already a user of cryptocurrency and I understand how that works. There are sort of social contracts that I can get into with other people, which pool together make something like an insurance pool for us to all now rely on. When there's a payout, it will come from here. So,
Yeah,
and the rules for the payout, the risk analysis, everything is done by your platform. So, and the
yeah,
final sort of sign off on who gets the insurance money is based upon a software layer that you're building. Am I right?
yeah, exactly.
All right, super. And so then see, so tell us more about how the business model works, because on one hand you have users, so that's like the B2C angle to it. And I'm also guessing you may have a B2B angle. So could you tell us more?
B2B angle is B2B angle. It's very very early stage, because a lot of insurance, it's very hard to convince insurance companies, even if let's say they are finance companies, and the fintech companies who have evolving minds, and they can, they can not easy, but they are moderatively or comparatively easy to convince. But insurance companies, they still are operating on the practices that they have developed on 100 years before. So currently B2B, we are trying to create a B2B model, not only for the risk analysis part, and not mainly on the blockchain part. The risk
Okay.
the risk analysis part and the claim certification part, there are some kind of APIs that we can provide them in the near future, not on the current priority right now, but that we can provide those insurance companies to maybe understand their user better and minimize their risk accordingly, because now the user behavior is changing. Millennial behavior is very different than the behavior of, let's say, the other people.
That's right. So, but okay, so how does the B2C angle work? Like, how does Tesha make money? Do you take a subscription fee, or is it a transactional fee, or
Yeah,
how does it
it's,
work?
it's, it's mainly transactional fee. It's
Okay,
mainly,
so every time, let's say I have an insurance claim that I need a payout, so some part of it would go to your platform.
yeah.
Got
So
it. Got it. Yeah.
I mean, it's the transactional fees. I'm saying it because it's easy to understand, but the main core technical part here is that in Tezos, in Tezos is a proof of stake blockchain. So proof of work is like Bitcoin, and proof of stake is the depending upon the stake you have in your smart
Mhm.
contract, you generate a certain income over a year. So let's say your smart contract has $1,000, then an year it will generate due to inflation 7% of the return on Tezos, right? So what essentially our plan is to cut take a small fees from that, the income,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
it is sort of a transactional fee, you can say.
Right, right. And a quick note to the audience as well. Any questions that come up in terms of, but the reason again, I'm saying that's a good time to bring in the audience is because while people are, at least from my point of view, right, people are getting into cryptocurrency mainly from the trading perspective. A lot of people are like, maybe there is some money to be made over here. But apart from core technical people, when I talk around to people, and I was asking Vikas as well, there is clearly the technical side of people who are looking at blockchain applications of it, and there are non-tech guys who come in and they say these are the use cases. Can we build something around that? But for the layman, for example, myself, I don't really understand it too much. So then, if the audience also has any questions, just put it down in the comments, and then we'll bring you on and we can get you to ask some more questions to Om. So, one more question from the user perspective. So, the only thing that I've seen on the crypto side is in 2017 there was a lot of talk about cryptos being the next big thing. A lot of ICOs were launching, and some of them were good. Most of them weren't really backed on anything. So because of that, I decided not to sort of get into that world. So my first question to you: so how difficult is it for you to bring users on board, especially considering they need to have coins which they invest on your platform? Are you seeing that as a hurdle, or how does it work?
So definitely, it's the user base is currently not as large as any traditional product could have, but
Mhm.
as the blockchain ecosystem, mainly the Theos blockchain ecosystem, is also growing very rapidly. So I mean, currently it is the community of over a billion people itself, where a lot of people are holding and they want to. So I mean, I'm saying about the people who are holding the Theos token. So the number
Right.
the number is already, I guess it should be more than a million people. So, and there could be some traders, there could be, most of them are holders, right? So that those are the initially first we are gonna target. It's not something, because it is a very experimental technology and experimental product that we are trying to build. So we also don't want to scale up to, let's say, 100,000 users in the next 6 months. We want to start with a small user group and iterate and improve eventually. And also the core protocol that lies beneath the blockchain, that also has to improve. Some more regulation has to be around there. And it's like, it's the entire curve where everything grows together. Like, there is more education. We are also taking all the initiatives from our sides to educate more users, to bring more awareness, and to generate more applications. So it's kind of like everything is gonna go together. So it's not something like we have an app today and tomorrow we need to go to insurance. So that's why it's not only insurance now. That we started with only insurance, but now we are like, okay, so we want to do this, but there are certain many areas that needs to be developed. Like there has to be some better developer tools. So we
Mhm.
started developing that. There has to be more education around it. So we started doing that, and there has to be the product has to be better. So we started doing that, and also the one evolving sector in the blockchain currently is decentralized finance. So we are like people goes beyond the names like Bitcoin. They know the Bitcoin is the next big thing, and they will explore this now. Then Bitcoin, then Ethereum, then these days, and now the DeFi is a very buzzword that people are exploring. So we are also enabling DeFi, decentralized finance, on our videos, which is basically it's the finance or insurance and both those similar waivers we are trying to. So now you would say Tesho is not only limited to insurance; it is insurance. There are developer tools, baking services. Baking is like staking, and Monica, like APIs, like decentralized API services, so that people can build their decentralized application out of it. So it's like a bunch of different categories. It's more like we're creating an entire infrastructure. For,
Okay. Yeah, the reason I ask is because one takeaway for the audience when Priyadarshi told me that you're coming on board is you guys are building a solution which is is not mainstream technology yet, blockchain,
yeah.
where and how do you build a startup in a technology itself which is not mainstream? You talk about Java, you talk about a bunch of other tools for building the mainstream solutions, and there is more of a, as you said, get a million users in 6 months kind of a game. You get that, you've got something to work with. So my again, the reason why I asked you that is to talk about you and Bernd as founders. What is your mentality going forward, probably like over the next 6 months, 1 year, in terms of like how do you go about building a business? And you're saying that you're building that whole ecosystem on Tezos, and insurance is one thing. You're building something, a bunch of other applications. I also read that you're into the crop. You're working with farmers or something on that side.
Crop insurance. That is a proof of concept that we are trying to do.
I see. Okay. So basically, what you guys have done is, instead of typical startup mentality, is pick one use case and go deep down into that and try to master that and then go elsewhere. But you're experimenting with a bunch of other use cases because, again, technology is nascent. You're trying to look around in various areas.
Hmm.
Would that be a nice way of saying what you're doing?
Yeah, but I mean the insurance is still the main focus, but it is more like we started too early in an early ecosystem. Like not on Ethereum, but Theos is an early ecosystem. So Ethereum is if we had started on Ethereum, we would have happy to go because everything already existed. So we started with Theos as an early ecosystem, and we saw that saw some lack of infrastructure, the development infrastructure, right? So we were like, until the development infrastructure is there, we want
Mhm.
to build our product very efficiently.
Okay.
And then we were like, okay, so there were a lot of teams around the world who were working on building the infrastructure. I said, why not we also contribute to this? This will only get us better understanding of the technology. That will only make us, better at, let's say, the underlying protocol, better at writing smart contracts and understanding the blockchain better. And like we have also learned a lot from our the tools and the things that we have built. And now we are able to uh, make a product which is really efficient. So, and that is the main part was always there. This was just some sort of a side thing. Like in any blockchain ecosystem, every company wants to build some tools that they use internally, and then we wanted to make it open source so that anybody can use it, so that anybody can learn from our experiences. That this is the hurdle that we faced, and now the tools we are making it open source. So anybody else who is facing this hurdle, they can use our tools. So
Understand.
so that is kind of like it is. We eventually, I mean, when we were doing this thing, we got some nice response. We were like, okay, when people want to build more applications and then want to see more improvement in these tools that we have introduced. So it basically started as not as a core. Still, it's not a core thing, but it's just hobby, and then we got more into it. Okay, so let's also enable let's enable the entire infrastructure.
Understood. Let's take a break over here. So Anwar from the audience is asking, what will be the impact of the present crisis on the crypto investment in India? So by present crisis, I assume he's talking about the COVID issue, and probably you can talk about that. I have a couple of questions follow up to that. So
Sure. See, uh, as you also mentioned, I'm not very much into crypto trading or the prices because we are more into the believe in the technology. I personally don't trade or something like that. But yeah, definitely as a part of the ecosystem, I do hold crypto because if you don't hold crypto and you're building a crypto product, how can you understand? I mean,
no,
sometimes that happens.
right.
But the current crisis is I can't really say, but my intuition is that all this the very dramatic things that are going, like oil prices are going negative and the Feds are printing money,
Mhm.
and I keep seeing all this very interesting analysis on Twitter. So I believe that the halving is also there. The Bitcoin halving is also there. So I believe either it's that way or this way. So
Okay.
a lot of factors are there now. So initially it was before Corona, it was just about halving and the supply demanding. Now there are a lot of factors. The entire economy is down. There is halving, the economic crisis, the Feds are printing money, and you are seeing the effects on the economies right now. And we don't know what's after. We don't know if it's a bigger recession than this. So if that is some, and there is also one thing interesting thing that is happening is that the money that is being given to U.S. government, their citizens, let's say $1,000, $200, they are investing there into Bitcoin to diverse their risk.
Wow. Okay.
All in all, I'm always optimistic. So because I'm never into this game for, let's say, next year. I'm into this game for next 7 to 8 years. That's when we will actually get to know what the new world is going to look like, or what the new financial system is going to look like.
I think that's important even as generally as a startup founder. So
Yeah.
you can't start a company to say I'm going to exit in a year and a half, 2 years, and somebody will acquire me. It may happen, but then be ready for a much longer, right? In fact, in the ecosystem. So when I was previously working at the fund and at TIE also, there was a 1,000 day rule where you have to survive the first 1,000 days, and
Mhm.
then you see what happens. Especially in an ecosystem like India, where we're not entirely led by large valuations and cash burn for acquisition models. We do build, like, for the vast majority of Indian entrepreneurs, they do build bootstrap companies that are profitable, and then they have scale. So
No, yeah.
the point that you're making makes absolute sense. And the follow-up question to Anwar is, how does the overall regulatory piece affect Techsure? Because you guys are working in the insurance sector. It is heavily governed by certain policies, certain regulations. So as an early stage startup, how do you tackle that?
So that's why we are peer to peer. So in peer to peer, you are not basically an insurance company on top of blockchain. Insurance is heavily regulated. So
Right.
let's say even if you want to become an insurance company, the most hated sector, if I say I hate, is the insurance sector because of so many things are there, and the regulations varied from totally on a different level on countries to countries. Like, let's say in a country in Europe, there's total different regulation, and the country in India is also very highly regulated. So I mean, they literally need that the person or the CEO needs to have a substantial amount of experience before launching an insurance company. Or let's say if there are people like, now we are seeing entrepreneurs who are launching amazing products, let's say new banking products or some very open innovative in banking. So
Mhm.
innovation in banking is happening, but innovation in insurance is not possible until the regulations are loose, or there's something, at least in India. So all the innovation that you are seeing in insurance that is happening in India right now is very well backed by huge capital reserves by multi-billions of, let's say, insurance companies. That's not that is not even innovation. It will say they're just improving UI, UX, so stuff like that. But for Tesho part, that's why we are peer to peer. So we are not the ones. We have just written some code which don't do heavy analysis and stuff like that, which gives you an overview of the risk, which gives you an overview of, let's say, claim prices, which is already a preset that agreed upon. It's like a smart contract. So we are not an provider here. It's like you are providing yourself. We have just written a couple of smart contracts. It's a decentralized application. Nobody owns it. Nobody controls it. Right. So in a way, you would be ensuring yourself or your peers. So it doesn't need regulation. That's why, and I'm very sure about it. And I'm so sure about it. We have talked to Dutch National Bank about it. So at least there we can be regulated. That gives an area of the EU, not in India. So
Got it. So you're
right.
saying because you're P2P, because you're sort of outside of that whole net of large company politics as well as regulatory, the framework of that, you are able to survive and you're able to sort of scale as an early stage startup. And
Yeah.
and also on touching upon that, how much of Burn's for the viewers, Burn, who is Om's co-founder at Desher, used to work at an insurance company earlier,
Yeah.
and so I did read that he was trying to build blockchain solutions inside his company, and there was always that tussle of, are we an insurance company or are we a technology company, right? So I mean, the question is, how much of that kind of knowledge gets translated into a product like Tesher, and is how do you sort of tackle that?
Oh, very much. I mean, first thing that we got from there is, the mindset of insurance people is same all around the world. So we know that that it needs to be. I'm really certain that there's gonna be a breakout in the insurance industry, which is already happening which is already happening in a very small scale. There are companies with big amount of reserves. They are enabling that. But I'm sure that in coming of years, general entrepreneurs, general people who,
Mhm.
who let's say wants to bootstrap or who wants to start with some small reserves, they would also be able to bring their innovation. Because so that translates a lot into our product as well. So our thought process, because both of us we are millennials. What we think is in the coming years, it's not gonna be the insurance products are also gonna be very different. It's not gonna be uh, a centered product. Like let's say
Like a centralized ecosystem is what you're saying. It won't
yeah,
be
even
just a
even
monolith as a
yeah,
bank or
even
transport.
even in the centralized ecosystem. I'm not saying because I mean definitely the entire insurance industry on blockchain and everybody paying on cryptocurrency is way far, right? So maybe I didn't mention it, but we have this also a traditional branch also the machine learning thing that we do this analysis and stuff like that, right?
Uh-huh.
On to provide that APIs and that. So that's where we also focus on the traditional insurance industry part to understand it better. So in that part, what is happening is the user behavior is changing. The millennials are behaving completely different. Millennials they basically don't even they are not even buying insurance. If you look at if you do I mean, if you ask your parents, most of our parents they are they are very risk aware person. So they
That's
already
right.
has all this line of insurance like term insurance, life insurance, this kind of insurance, that kind of insurance. I just one day I asked all of my friends around like 20 to 15 to 20 people. They didn't even have any plan to buy any kind of insurance next 10 or next 5 to 10 years. They were like, okay, when we get married and when we have something like that, we have kids, then we will think
Right.
about it. So mindset is completely changing. And then I asked my father like, when did you get into insurance? So that was also completely different. And why is that? Because it's sometimes you get some unnecessary and it's not cool anymore. Like the insurance is not cool for million. The UI if you go to insurance website, it's ugly. It's still ugly.
Mhm.
I've tried all the insurance website. A lot of tags, it's very well informed. It's literally for like for old school old citizens, and not a nice experience. And I want to buy, let's say, insurance for theft in my home. I'm paying extra for, let's say, some flood insurance and some fire insurance and stuff like that. That should also be customizable. So everything I think is going to be very customized. I mean, the second thing. the sharing economy, the rental economy that is emerging in India. Millennials are not buying things; they
That's
are
right.
just renting. They're just renting things. So the entire, it's there's soon be, I think, going to see this entire shift of how the issue is going to be done. And I mean, that's what Nirmala Sitharaman says. Like, automobile industry is down because millennials are
They're using Ola and Uber, right?
right.
Yeah, I mean, no, but I think you've brought up a lot of very important points, which is that again, as you said. So in my own experience, most of my insurance used to come from my employers, and the only insurance that I have actually gone out and purchased is a phone sort of an insurance in case it breaks, and that regularly happens, and it's helped out. But very important point, which is that the kind of industries which will get disrupted now and going forward are the ones which haven't, I mean, intuitively are the ones which have not been disrupted, and insurance is right at the middle of all of that.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of fraud analysis, you see a lot of biometric startups coming out. That's on the side of verification, identification, sort of identity management, anti theft protection, all of that. And you guys are on the other side, which is trying to take that whole piece out and trying to do a peer-to-peer network and all of that. How long has it been since you started Tesho?
This year it's been 1 year. So I mean, it was when we started, it was completely different idea than what it is because like any startup journey, I would say. So there were very different issues. I mean, some still there are very different issues. So on the peer-to-peer basis side as well, and also the ecosystem side as well. But many things have changed. So we initially we wanted, I mean, and we also did a lot of hit and try. Like we talked with a lot of insurance companies. Definitely the knowledge didn't come automatically because we were just new to this industry, right? But he was a software developer in that industry, so he had some knowledge, and I was just for my all entire knowledge was based on just research. We talked a lot with a lot of insurance companies from Generali in Switzerland, and we provided them and we sat with them and we told them, okay, this is kind of the ecosystem that we are enabling, or this is kind of product we are building, and they were simply not interested. I mean, they were just like, okay, we don't see that this sector is going to get disrupted in the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, they were very, even in the, not only in the blockchain space, we were mainly uh, approaching on the machine learning side, like to understand the user behavior better, to understand the millennials, how do they behave better to, optimize the risk according to individual's risk profile. And they were not really friendly about it, and they were still, I mean, they had this old school process that even for the paperless processes, like some of the insurance companies still you have to fill out the forms and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's very hard to convince the insurance companies, but on and on, there are very few companies who are advanced in this space in the insurance and in this space who appreciate the innovation. So I mean, we are in touch with some of them. So we are trying to help them out to kind of create a POC that how this thing can help their product or can help their ecosystem, or maybe kind of sort out the integration.
Okay.
The question was, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was basically the point of asking, because when you start off, what you're doing on day one is hardly what you're doing after the first year or after you raise some funding, and
Exactly.
once.
And then the important thing is that, see, what I've realized from my personal experience is not only, see, I think even in our business, I think there is one. Initially, we wanted to build something that is gonna, that is gonna be really big. We thought in next 5 to 10 years. But then also there has to be something that something that makes you survive. So that's also something that which led us to creating the developer tools, creating the entire infrastructure, the APIs or some kind of machine learning this kind of APIs that we can help insurance companies so that we can also become sustainable on the other side, and we also keep continuing working on this. We don't have to compromise with the product that we want to build. So that is, I guess, that is also in every business. People get to different phases of how do they. The main thing is I mean, the 1,000 years, how the 1,000 days bar, right? You have to survive. You have to you have to optimize your burn, and you have to keep working on exactly you want to build or what you want the disruptive thing or the main thing you want to build without compromising it for to build something which can go bigger in next 1 year, because then there will be something bigger in next 2 years.
Right. So basically, you stay with the market. You ensure that you survive, and the market knows about you. And more importantly, you're able to go after what are the opportunities in the market. And so, on that note, Om, so let's sort of change tracks here. Let's focus on your journey itself. So you were in India. So how did Draper University happen? What was the thinking behind it? Because you were working over here before that. You did your engineering. You were working here. And how did that switch happen? Tell us that be a really good journey. The reason is, again, for the audience, right? Many of the founders over here. The point that I'm trying to sort of bring out is, how did that networking piece happen for you? How was the exposure to the overall ecosystem?
Yeah, networking is big. I mean, I'm really happy and I appreciate the network that I have right now. So it's very. I mean, many times I've seen this. Let's say if we want to approach an insurance company, so we want to approach an EPC or some big guy for some insider. We want to.
Mhm.
It helps a lot. So this started the boost in the networking we got was from the Jaipur University, and before that, due to I believe in if you want to get into an ecosystem, always be an early adopter. So in blockchain, I started very early. There were only few people, so we all got connected with each other, and we used to discuss about it. Tim Draper was a big guy, and my elder brother, he used to be. He's also an entrepreneur, so he suggested me about the University that I should apply for. But definitely, it's a risk. I mean, it was a risk because you have to go completely out of your comfort zone to get to university without any idea. I mean, I had an idea that I was working on that time, but it was more of a health tech idea
Mhm.
because I got into that because of some research I've been doing for last 3 to 4 months. And then I thought, okay, I should pursue this. But then again, I was like, okay, I spent so many years, getting into Bitcoin and blockchain. So does it make sense to completely go out of this stuff? Because it's early evolving ecosystem. You could evolve with it together.
Right.
So then I went there and I dropped that idea that was working on it. I said, okay, this maybe is some good company will take this idea and will work on. And then uh, what happens in Draper University was basically it's in Silicon Valley, right? So you get all these big founders. They tell you their founding of the stories, and they tell you their journeys. You get to learn from that. You get to have discussions with them, and then you get some connections. I mean, your mentors, they provide you some connections. The main thing is, how do you sustain those connections? How do you convert them into something? And also the experience, because how Silicon Valley operates is completely different than how India operates, how the startups in India operate, right? Because it's all very flashy and glamorous. So,
Mhm.
but not very it looks very ideal, but I would say in India the startups and the companies work. It's a lot better than the things that work in Silicon Valley.
Thanks for saying that, because a lot of people, myself included, mainly because we don't have the kind of experience outside of India, we're like, okay, maybe the grass is always greener on the other side, as they say. But so I was just to draw some parallels. I was working in Korea last year, and the startup ecosystem there is entirely different. So one of the founders there was like, if you on day one when you have a business plan, you can go up and get like $100,000 grant from the government, and it's a different setup. So what happens is, the way founders are wired is differently. They know that I have expendable money on day one, and let me
Yeah.
now go build a fancy solution. Whereas back home in India, you're trying to figure out, how do I make money first and how do I survive first, and then we'll build, right?
And investor mindset is very different also in India and in United States. They are like investor shops everywhere. They literally invest for, let's say, okay, take my money, come to me after 5 years or 10 years. What did you do?
Mhm.
Right, something like that. Sometimes that's also very good because it gives a liberty to your founder. So it's not like somebody is always on your back. Okay, do this. Do why this isn't happening, or why that isn't happening. Sometimes,
Okay.
but unless and until somebody takes advantage of that liberty, But that is something that I find really good. Indian investors, I mean, they are very sometimes. There's, I mean, in India, all type of investors like this. They are also the investors who want to see generic business who can start generating revenue over next 1 or 2 years or next 2 to 3 years. There are also some kind of investors who who really believe in big vision, or the picture after 5 years, the picture after 10. So that is also I see the investor uh, mindset is also very different in Europe and United States and in India. Very different mindsets. It's also very different how do you approach American mindset is it's very famous. It's similar to what you see in Silicon Valley. I would say it's exactly
The TV show, you mean?
yeah, the TV show. The TV show.
No, I think like basically that. So Silicon Valley brought out, though a little exaggerated, it kind of tells you what to expect, and maybe not to go around with that kind of an expectation. But it's the difference in industries is what I think the TV show kind of brings out. So part two of that question is, I think first is you. Thanks a lot for telling us how mentalities are different and how the approach is different across ecosystems. And I think that's one of the main things which webinars like these or interactions like these we can pass on to people around us. So thanks for bringing that out. I think you articulated that very well. And secondly, also tell us about communities like Blockchain India and a bunch of other guys who are in the blockchain ecosystem, because I've noticed that all of you are a tight knit group and you help each other a lot. Because I think that there's a lot of takeaways from that for other founders as well.
Mhm. So the blockchain community in India is really, I mean, it has grown a lot since I started with the blockchain. So that's why I'm also very optimistic about blockchain scenario overall, uh, around the world and also in India. A lot of the community, the exchanges, the startups, they are also raising good amount of fundings in India. So the community is really active. But still, I can see that sometimes it can be hard for general people that how can we get into these communities, or what if I say go, how can I involve into these communities and I ask a newbie questions or something like that. So that is something that we are also working. I mean, me as a part of the larger community, and all of other stakeholders, all of them are working really hard to enable enable more people to get into the community, ask questions, ask doubts, and get engaged and try to learn more. So I see the community is only going to grow, but there is also two kind of community. One is mainly there's also very segmentation also in the community. One is, let's say, trading communities. One is the tech communities. One is both kind of communities mixed together. And so overall, I think it's very growing system in India now. If you see by the Budget, they are launching a $50 million fund in India itself for blockchain entrepreneurs. CoinDCX is diversifying $1 million for educational campaigns. We at Theos India are also gonna we do a lot of educational seminars, meetups, and stuff like that. But we are also getting more into enabling blockchain education. We go into universities, we teach students who are the next generation of developers and builders about what is Bitcoin, what is blockchain, and how to build applications on blockchain in some boot camps and some seminars or some conferences. So everybody is working. That's what exactly everybody wants in the blockchain community. They want to enable as many people to understand the Bitcoin and understand the technology, so that it can think of it just as they say. Think of it as internet in its early stage, right? And everybody is very. If I would say personally, the community is so good in India. Usually, what happens is, let's say, in other countries in the Europe, where community is big, where let's say talk about France or Switzerland, where people, everybody knows about Bitcoin. It's like that. Everybody knows about Bitcoin. I did this kind of stuff when I was in Switzerland, and everybody know about it. They were the pizza guy. Do you take Bitcoin? I said, oh yes, I do. I mean, they had Bitcoin ATMs, and yeah, interesting point about something that I always try to tell about Bitcoin. Why I like is, I I first time I went to Switzerland because we were in some incubation program, and I first put something like 20,000 rupees to convert into euro, and I lost a lot of money. I mean, it was unbelievable the exchange rate. You don't realize until you do it. I mean, it always looks good. Okay, we'll just go to some country and we'll convert our money and we'll go on and have. And when you see like 5 to 6 thousand just going in the currency in the exchange rate, I'm like, what is this, man? Then I found out that Switzerland had Bitcoin ATMs.
Hmm?
Right, Switzerland has Bitcoin ATMs, and then since I just put it at one time in the airport, and during my entire stay of 1.5 months, I didn't even I didn't convert any money or withdraw any money from. Maybe my ATM was not working, and I didn't even want to go into that. But I only withdraw to Bitcoin ATM. I used to just put my address and stuff like that. I used to withdraw money from Bitcoin ATM. That was about it. It was really fun and no big currency rates something like that. Not something like I needed money and I tell someone to send me money and it takes let's 7 or 10 days. So I've lived this experience and that's why I like this experience. That okay, if we are because we are look if we are looking at a borderless world, if we are looking at borderless economy, that is what blockchain enables essentially. Then this has to happen. This kind of disruption has to happen.
So you were able to do your daily purchases using blockchain? Sorry, using Bitcoin in Switzerland?
I was able to withdraw euro from Bitcoin.
Oh, so okay, all right. So you were able to convert that way. Perfect. And so so on that note, because you're very vocal about cryptocurrency and talking about Bitcoin per se. Uh, and another, this is more of a personal question that I had. People who get into crypto trading. So if you were to look at it as people who get into stock trading, are people who study the stock markets and who look at it quite keenly before they get involved either in intraday or long-term trading. Where do you see crypto trading at right now? Now that the regulations are a lot easier than it was before, and when do you see? And it's not an if question; it's a when do you think that Bitcoin could become mainstream as currency across the world?
Yeah. So cryptocurrencies are a new asset class. It's like highly volatile, highly risky. First thing is that needs to be people sometimes correlate it to or think it is similar to stock market, or a lot of people are into something like okay, quick money or something. First thing is a lot of I see that the last time in the last year when Bitcoin touched its rock bottom, a lot of people became aware to Bitcoin and who were educated about it, who wanted to know about it, the ecosystem. And now people are not very, general perspective, I see people are not very, okay, I just wanna make some quick money. They are trying to learn. They are trying to explore what is it, what kind of asset class is it, what kind to look at its history, how much volatility it is, see, and then get into this. So, trading is evolving very nicely here, I would say. But still, I on the same time, the education needs to be there. On the same level that the trading evolves, the education, the distribution of the content, the distribution of the education has to evolve on the same level to keep everyone who is engaged in this new unregulated asset class. These are what the risks are, and
Mhm.
it has to be it has to be said very clearly. Okay, these are the risks. You could really lose your money. It's 24/7, 24/7 market. You can sleep. It might go crash. There might be there could be many scenarios. So people need to understand their risk and only then enter the market. It is definitely it's an emerging asset class market. It is definitely a new income generating market. People can many people are making money over it full time, part time. Very fascinating, very exciting. But I think still it is when the stock market was in its early stages, when things were not very regulated.
Right.
Harshad Chopra schemes and a lot of things were happening at that time. So that's what I always try to tell my friends who ask me about Bitcoin. I said just first look into early stages of stock market, look early stages of gold when it was unregulated, how they have evolved. Look into what Bitcoin is, not into technology, but at least it's a philosophy. try to find out what the risks are, look into Bitcoin history, it's 9 years old, how many ups and downs you see, and then decide to get into it with just a small minimum amount of money. And not it's not an advice, but just my practice. Maybe like 100 rupees or something like that. Something,
Mhm.
and then watch it over a couple of months, and then make your mindset, make your strategy exactly like how you would do in any different market, right? So that discipline, the determination, that has to be there in order to uh, to get into this, and also yeah, be aware of it. So I think it's gonna evolve very nicely. Cryptocurrency market is gonna evolve very nicely. A lot of all these exchanges, they are doing a lot on their part for bringing new users, for providing education and regulations. I don't have any idea about regulation. Is there gonna be a new ban or more regulation or what? I'm not sure really into that. But that's what I see happening. And Bitcoin, I think in the next the answer to your question, what is eventually going to happen to Bitcoin? I think it's going to become as a new option to diversify or to hedge your risk as a source of value. Exactly like it's gold. But gold has certain elements like it is uh, sentimental values and values and things. Bitcoin will also definitely will have its own different values.
Right.
So right, so it is definitely going to be a store of value. People are going to use it. Some people are going to use it for payments. People like me who goes to different countries, they will be able to pay in Bitcoin. So I see as a hybrid future. Bitcoin as a payment option. Bitcoin as a store of value.
And you've touched again. The main thing over there to take away is that anyone looking into the crypto market should look at it as an intelligent investor, the same way that you would look at any other asset class. Get involved in small amounts, study the market, get involved in small amounts, see what happens with your own money, experiment a bit, and then you can diversify it and then see how it goes. That's prudent advice, both in terms of financial advice as well as looking at it as not just as an asset class, but as you said, as a way of exchange, as currency going forward. Om, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to host you on this show. What's the best way for the audience to stay in touch with you? Everyone except Vikas. Vikas already knows you.
So I think the best way to reach out to me is very active on email om@fresh.com, and I'm very active on Telegram. It's I'll just write it here.
Yeah.
Very active on Telegram. So if anybody, not for trading advice, I only advise in technology. If you want to build something, if you want to, if you would ask me about if I should buy Bitcoin, if I should buy this coin or this coin, I'm just gonna send you a link, and that link would be Binance.vision or learn.bitcoins.com or some study resources where you can learn it. Maybe I some one day I also sent like 20 to 30 videos to one person who asked me about Bitcoin. Like when you all of this, then I'll tell you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's about the value that you offer to people. That's more important.
Yeah,
And you're
I'm very,
right.
I'm very open to discussion about blockchain technologies. If you want to build its applications, if you are building already application, if you want to, let's say, want some network connections, in India or in other parts of the world, very open to that. Definitely.
Thanks a lot, Om. Play the show over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Om. Thank you, Subbu, for this 1 hour, complete 1 hour session. And thank
Thank
you,
you,
everyone.
guys. Thank you,
Yeah. And
everyone.
thank you, Vikas. And Om, can you come down to the backstage? Thank
Sure.
you, everybody.